That's why this is sitting here.
Holy
I love that. It's even got sound. That's fucking cool. Oh, more sweating our balls off. That's good.
Operation Save the Balls.
Boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang.
Operation Save the Biscuits. Oh.
Got it figured out there, son?
Yeah.
Need your toppy? Eagerly waiting. I need this coffee. I'm dragging ass this evening.
Yeah.
Whoo. Bobbin?
Ooh, son. That's a triple latte on a Wednesday.
Oh. Man, I was bummed when I realized that I had double booked the top pin shoot and wedding. And I need to go to the wedding. That's
Gotta go.
no offense to everybody else. That's more important.
No choice.
But now I'm really freaking bummed because my old buddy Jimmy B is coming out of retirement to shoot in that thing, and I'm not going to be there. I'm so pissed. Oh, which we're definitely going to have Jimmy B on the podcast, man. That guy's got so many stories, so much interesting stuff.
I've heard nothing but gold from him.
He's just a character. I
Yeah.
love him like a brother. And when he first came into, this is Outdoor Sportsman days, right? This is, I was 17, 18. I think I was 18 when he first came in. And he'd been sold this used old Browning wood riser bow, like just a pile, right? Like an old junker. And he was all excited about it. And he's a Italian curly hair, slick car salesman guy, right? You know? And he comes and goes, "Hey man, what do you think about this bow I just bought?" I looked at it and I went, "I think it's a piece of shit." And that's how our relationship started. He's like, "Oh, man."
I always imagined Jimmy B to be Italian.
Oh, he is definitely Italian. He is 100% Italian. Bertolero, for sure.
Bertolero.
Yeah, he's got an amazing family, great kids, been married forever, great wife. And all the guy does is he works for the Border Patrol now. I don't know if he's
Border Patrol.
He is Border Patrol. Has for.
Do you have another Border Patrol friend, or is he your?
Yeah,
Border
Nick, who's shooting. Who was my shooting partner? It's shooting with you guys. He is a Border Patrol agent in Colville.
Rest in peace, Nick. I have to take him down this weekend.
Best of luck. He's gonna smoke you.
He's good, eh?
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were neck and neck on day one last year of whoever was going to have the better score got to shoot for individual, and the other person had to be the teammate. Because when you're picking up, if you're trying to do teams, one guy's got to be the sacrificial lamb.
They do.
Or the king of the 14, as Matt Alwine's face is on that belt for that tournament. But one person's got to kind of give up their score to try to get the extra points.
Yeah.
So no, we just based that off of whoever had the higher score. And he was, I was ahead, but not a ton, and I shot good. Like everything I pointed that weekend, it went where I pointed. I just didn't understand the strategy well enough to do better than third, but I was hitting where I was aiming the whole weekend.
Did you ever get into any of maybe your dad ever watch any of the late night shows?
No, my dad wasn't a late night show guy.
Yeah.
My dad was a weird duck kind of. He didn't like sports for the most part, other than golf, but he would never watch it. He liked to play it, but only at certain times. And outside that, he wanted to fly fish and traditional bow hunt, and that was it. Like, so if it didn't involve those things, he wasn't really super interested. Now, he did get really obsessed with TV shows and Netflix and stuff there in his older years when he can like binge something, and he loved like shows like Alone or stuff like that where people are trying to survive. Naked and Afraid, or those ones where they're trying to survive out in the wilderness. Love shows like that. Like, it was just
Naked and Afraid's got a cult following.
It does. And then he also loved he'd love religious ones, of course. He was a relatively religious guy, believed heavily in the Lord. And God, what else did he like? He loved action movies, like legit old school action movies. You know what we would call old school, but his would be like modern. Loved that stuff. Dances with Wolves, Jeremiah Johnson. Those were some
Anything
of
with
his
Arnold
favorites.
Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, he was, but it wasn't like crazy like that. It was, I probably liked him just as much. But if it was an action movie or that sort of thing, he was down. He enjoyed it. I remember being taken to the movie theater as a kid to watch Terminator 2: Judgment Day when it came out. Schwarzenegger.
That's what I was thinking about Terminator. Was when you said old school action movies.
Yeah. But he always really liked him. He liked him a lot. Yeah. But no, God, what was your question? You just lost.
I
lost
said,
it.
familiar with any of the late night shows. How about you? Do you ever get into them at any point?
I used to.
Yeah.
I can't stay up that late anymore, man. I get up so early. It's hard to stay up that late. I liked Colbert when it was the Republican spoof. It was hilarious. Like all the things were like blatantly raw. That was good. I actually did like Jon Stewart's Comedy Central, even though it was more of a liberal-based platform.
Did you ever get into Leno at all?
I never did watch Leno much. I liked Letterman over Leno when in those days, because I think I'd say I was probably 16 to 22, 23 if I ever watched late night. I did watch Saturday Night Live a lot, which I wouldn't call a late night show, but that was...
It was a late night show.
It was a late night show.
A lot of comedy gold. It's amazing how many sick comedians have come through that.
Yeah, it's like it used to be
it's like the funnel.
It used to be like a guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like if you got on there, you were guaranteed had a future. But you're also talking about a platform that used to require people to be in movies to be successful. And now you really don't need that. Like Rogan's a great example. When have you ever seen Rogan on a movie?
Oh yeah,
right?
We've lost the need for mainstream media to present people to people.
Yeah, and he was on. He was the star or whatever, a Fear Factor, and then he had another TV show and what have you. But he pioneered going away from that. And Bert Kreischer's another great one. Like I'm a big comedians fan. I love comedians, but like Kreischer was doing the Travel Channel, right, and Bert the Conqueror and all that stuff, and they'd make him do all kinds of crazy shit and travel all over the country. And dude, there's a fly in here driving me nuts. And Rogan told him, dude, you got to quit. Like you're a comedian. And now with the resources we have, did you burn yourself?
Yeah.
Be careful. With the resources that they have, you can put stuff out on YouTube. You can have, all sorts of different avenues that don't require Hollywood to determine your life and what you're going to do and how you're going to live it.
It's awesome.
And that's just really awesome. I mean, like one of my favorite examples of it, even though it was, relatively inappropriate. Got him. That was on film, people. I got the fly. Louis C.K. when they tried to cancel him, and he literally made his own platform, made his own website, put his specials out on his own website for his own stand-up, and the dude won like best stand-up comedy of the year from the Academy after they tried to cancel him.
Dang, I didn't understand the depth of that story.
Oh yeah, granted, he did some very inappropriate things, and I understand, and that was kind of the peak of we're just going to take people away that we disagree with, kind of mentality. And yeah, they he lost every source of revenue. He had a show on, I think it was called FX, called Louis, and was very popular, and just turned it off.
Well, how are you going to be a comedian with a clean background?
Well, and that's the ridiculous thing too. Is like you realize these people their basis is to be offensive. Like that's what they're basing a reaction of you on, is to offend you to a degree or offend somebody, because that's going to happen. And it's a joke that you think you can like have that and not. Yeah, the comedy is the place where you get to laugh about the stuff that people don't want to talk about. So you can kind of get out and make everybody in the room a little more comfortable with the scenario. It's like, look, everybody, that's all stuff we're talking about quietly behind closed doors and whatnot, where nobody's going to get in trouble. And I mean, there's comedians put it out, like you got to hear it, you got to deal with it. Some of the stuff I've heard and seen that you can't talk about anywhere else, that everyone understands and knows, they're still doing it. And I have a lot of respect for that, because they have a lot of risk involved in that. And, but because of their unique position, like they can, Ari Shaffir put his latest stand-up out on YouTube. Like didn't use a network or anything like that. It's got like almost 6 million views for an hour and 20-minute special. Like, he's like, you didn't need anything but YouTube to make money off that, right? As long as they don't, demonetize it because he says something offensive. But I mean, the reality of the opportunities that those people have is they no longer have to be beholden to the groups of people that would say you can't say that.
No more gatekeepers, right?
No more gatekeepers.
Yeah.
So and honestly, we all need to figure out how to do that. When a small percentage of people get to control and dictate how you think and how you feel, that's something that should scare you terribly. You should never be told how to think or how to feel.
Especially when you talk about creative innovation. Like,
right?
There's so much creative innovation has happened on YouTube. That's why I've always been so bullish on the platform, is like, people are just doing stuff you would never ever see on TV in all forms and matters. And there's a demand for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the thing I love about the platform is how weird it is and how much, I mean, it's got to be ground zero for like creative innovation right now.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many people that don't even watch TV anymore.
Yeah.
Like at all.
I'm one of them.
But they all watch YouTube. Everybody watches YouTube.
Anyway, the late night thing. So the traditional format is they start with a monologue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got a monologue today.
Oh, Jesus. All right.
All right. So give me a drum roll.
This is our late night. Hold
No,
on.
this is our rants with Tim. This is rants with Tim today. Okay.
Oh, you get your own?
Yeah, I got my own rant with Tim today. So, Josh, if we look around this place, this beautiful place we're sitting.
Yeah. Looking around.
What do we see? What do we see behind the cameras?
What do you see behind cameras? You see a big old grease board that I write notes on and try to use as a prop sometimes in videos. We see a 12-man flag. We see some elk hides.
How big is our staff back there?
Well, we don't have one.
Exactly.
A staff.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. We don't have a staff. We're just like two rednecks trying to make a podcast work.
Yeah, I'd agree with that statement. Although I don't know how much redneckish you can call it do with a mohawk, but hey,
Yeah.
I still would say I'm a relatively country guy.
Version of it.
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's
So we
probably
need all the
accurate.
help we can get.
Sure.
Like, we need people to subscribe. We need them to share it with their redneck friends or whoever.
Sure.
I would love to have someone behind the camera to help monitor sound, to help write stories. Like, that would be an amazing progression. But right now, it's just two dudes in a fire.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we had that person, for example, you could actually have like live questions coming in that you could respond to while you're filming it.
I wouldn't have to worry about the little red record button.
Yeah, this is true. Although I can see it, Tim. It's
Yeah,
okay, and
it's
I
good.
constantly look.
That's good.
I constantly look because I know how that makes you feel.
But anyway, I kind of like the scrappiness of like not having resources. I think often resources aren't an answer for creativity, but that would be a cool progression. So if we get a couple people that get that little tap, give us a little tap, that helps us out.
Yeah, we definitely definitely have to grow to get to that point.
That's the wind in our sails.
Yeah, I mean, if you have another person back here, then that means payroll, and we have to actually make money
Editing.
at a certain point. Dude,
How about you going?
Man,
You're going to be a gangster.
I am. I'm getting better at it. That's for sure. It's still got a long ways to go, but I'm to the point that I feel like I understand it reasonably. I was so disappointed in myself. Was it yesterday or the day before? I was bound and determined to get all the way through one without calling you.
Yeah.
I went, God, I looked everywhere. I checked every button. I was like, God, I can't remember how to do this one part. I got to call Tim.
Now that you've had like a little peek behind the curtain, tell the people about a peek behind the curtain to editing. Like,
it's complicated, but it's not. I think that's probably the best way to put it. There's so many different things to change while you're doing it that you really need to understand the core of it. You need somebody like Tim to sit there and explain it to you because it'll probably take you 100 times longer to figure it out. And being able to use the hotkeys on the keyboard to actually make your cuts and changes and not like moving a mouse around and clicking on stuff saves a ton of time. And it definitely teaches you what to look at, how the camera should be pointed, when you should turn it on, when you should turn it off, and turn that damn thing off a lot because you're just cutting that later. It's a lot easier if you just turn the thing off. But it's given me a definite appreciation for somebody to be able to do that job, but it also enlightens me to how much time you have to spend doing it to make a good product and how much better I could make my product if I had the time. But at the same time, I think that my time should probably be spent doing something more valuable.
For sure.
And then have someone that's more of an artist to do that.
But you will be a much better mentor and teammate with an
Yeah.
editor
Yeah. I mean, I think,
for having some base knowledge.
oh yeah, I still want to edit regardless. And I still want to continue to edit, and I still want to edit different types. Like, I want to film a couple more style type pieces and edit that, because I haven't edited that type of thing. I mean, I've edited this, and I've edited some of my product review type videos and things like that, but I want to do like an out and about type of thing and have some action shots and understand editing that, because I want to feel like I could comfortably do a good job at it. And then ideally hire someone that's way better at it than me to do it. Because there's only so many hours in the day for me, and I get pulled a lot, but the path that I'm going down is going to require that. I'm going to have somebody that can edit and manage social media probably for, a full-time job. That's definitely going to be a must here going forward. If I continue to do what I'm doing and grow like I'm growing, I want to be able to give you guys eventually like 5 a week. I've thought about it a lot, like what's my goal and how many videos are really feasible. Like doing 3 a week hasn't been hard, but I want to have some structure around what you get and when to expect it. And then like Monday through Friday just kind of made sense to me, like have a video a day, Monday through Friday. So my goal next year is to be up to 5. There'll be some exceptions when like a new bow company launches their bows. I'm dumping all that the second I can launch it. So you might not get, a video every day in those times a year. When new product comes out that's actually a bow launch, I will dump the entire product launch the second I'm allowed to launch it, so you can get it as quickly as possible. But with the plans that I've got going forward, assuming nothing like explodes or whatnot in a negative way, I don't think it'll be difficult. I think it'll be totally manageable. But I will have to have somebody editing more than 10 hours a week. It'll have to look more like a full-time job. So, and I look forward to that. I definitely want to create better content that people like. But I mean, I get so much positive responses from what I'm making. Like I feel like I'm doing a good job. But I don't think it's going to take terribly much to make it better than it is. But I get like just a guy today, like I was running around the shop pulling orders and grabbing stuff and like trying not to make eye contact with people because it was kind of busy, because I know what happens. And he literally walked over when I was in the middle of something. He's like, "Look, I know you're busy. I don't want to interrupt you, but man, just thank you. Thank you so much for making these things. I've learned so much, and it's made me not afraid to try to do this." And that was the whole point. So I get that like every day. I have to keep doing this, even if I can make more money doing my business a little stronger. I need to do this, and it doesn't matter if it makes money. I need to make a difference.
Common pieces of feedback I hear is like it lowers the barrier to entry for people.
That's the whole
they
point.
feel like it gives them permission to work on things or to try things that they may otherwise not. I hear that a lot.
Yeah, that's the feedback I get.
Yeah.
The first thing I usually say to somebody is, "I really hope you learned something." He's like, "Oh, I've learned so much. I'm not afraid." And I get that more often than not is the response I get. I'm no longer afraid to try.
Yeah, we need people in the pipeline around here too. Like we need video people and photo people to like come hang out here and be around. Like I think that's one thing that's been cool too, is as we've evolved and started doing more of this, is it's become, I guess, part of the culture is where it doesn't feel weird to have a camera around here. And a lot of people expect that to some degree.
Yeah.
So you've always been very, I guess you've made it easier for people like us to come hang out here and make stuff.
Yeah.
And I would just encourage people like in the area to like come. You want to do something like that? Like come shoot the 3D course, make a YouTube video. I would love to see more collaboration within YouTube, but also from people that want to come up and make more stuff. Invite them here, hang out here. I don't know of a better scene to shoot 3D, to shoot the flat course, to shoot indoor, to have people in the shop that are, cool with hanging out with cameras and stuff like that.
it's kind of prerequisite. If you work here, you better be comfortable with the camera around because it's just going to happen. You can't go running away from it. But we had when we had that last elk shape camp here, a group of 4 of them went out and said, "Hey, is it okay to make a YouTube video?" I'm like, "Of course it is. Go out, go shoot the course." They made their own YouTube video and shot the course with people they had met at the camp, and it was cool.
And people may not know that because they don't see a lot of other people do it. But yeah, totally. Yeah.
I've only had a few other people like physically ask, but it's becoming more common. Like people are showing up and trying to record stuff. And
One
whatnot, and that's
thing
neat.
that a lot of people don't know is it is your constitutional right to film yourself.
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting in a lot of settings because in a lot of settings you may be discouraged from filming other things, but you're actually always allowed to film yourself.
Yeah.
Which is why I think YouTube has become maybe a bit of a loophole for like media passes and the kind of permits you might need to pull for other things. Is you're actually constitutionally allowed to film yourself. Someone smarter than me might come in and say in certain circumstances you're not, but you are. And that's why with like public servants and stuff is you're allowed to film them in the case of like police interactions or those kind of things. But when it comes to filming and stuff, that's just a little fun fact I didn't really understand until the last couple of years or something like that.
Yeah.
That's part of your freedom of speech. Is the right to film yourself.
Interesting. Well, that's good to know.
Put
Film
it
away,
behind
people.
OnlyFans or whatever you got to do.
Little foot stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't fathom who.
Josh has been giving away the milk on here. He's showing you guys the feet.
No, see, this is like the equivalent of wearing a bikini. You can't quite see them, but you got a little look. You got a little look there. There's a little bit.
Yeah.
Little angle. Little side toe.
Little angle.
Little side toeage.
toe. Yeah.
Oh man, no, it's summertime, man. I gotta let the dogs out here.
Summertime, feeling fine.
It is. It's getting warm, and man, we're only 2 months from hunting season.
We're in the thick of it right now, dude. We're not 2 months from hunting season. You and I are.
Oh, I'm a month and a week or 2. Yeah. Crap.
5 weeks.
Yeah. Fuck. Oh man.
5 weeks.
I need to get to it next week really hard then and figure out which bow I'm using.
That's right. You haven't picked one yet.
I haven't. I've used the SS34 more than any of the other ones, and I do like it a lot. But I need to just break it down and film next week heavily and just get that done because I got to settle on something.
Historically, through the last couple of years, you've gravitated towards BOWTECH.
Well, their draw cycle for what they are and their velocity is really good, but the tunability to me is huge because I am a person that wants to walk out in the field with what I feel is the most accurate tool. And because I can manipulate that wheel lean so little, which as the wheel lean tuning videos come out more and more, you'll understand a little bit more of why it's important. But I want to be able to make small finite changes to my wheel lean position at distance, and you can really only do that with those bows. You can move your wheel lean, but you were talking in chunks. Like I just got done filming this last week, which that video should come out pretty quick. The Matthews top hat shim tuning video, and we actually measured how much it moves every time you move a top hat. So you have a like you could put a laser on it.
It's basically a static movement.
Yeah.
You can only get you're moving it in increments.
Yes.
Versus quarter turns or however many degrees you want to crank the nut.
Yeah,
so crank that nut, son.
And it's going like if it was on a 33, we used my 33 because I needed to do it anyway to get it wheel lean set. Mm-hmm. And there's 6 positions you can set the top in and 6 positions you can set the bottom in. And I want to say every time you moved a set of top hats, it was a 1/4 inch of movement on the laser. That's a lot. It's a lot. Like when you go from one to the next one to see how much it changed. Like I couldn't on one end, I couldn't dead center the cam. Like it was off to the left a little bit, but touching the edge of the cam, or off to the right a little bit and touching the edge of the cam. One of them happened to dead center and the other one didn't. And mind you, it was 2 shim sets aside from one to the other. Like it wasn't equal at all. And that's what you're going to find when you start really measuring that at draw. If you measure that at rest, you're not going to get an accurate result. Having your wheel lean set correctly is having it set correctly at full draw, which no shop's going to do.
Yeah.
Because it's way too much work and it's way too difficult to set.
I mean, at this stage for me, it would be very difficult to sell me something else. I've tuned that bow myself with some oversight, obviously, 3 times
And we should probably
without putting it in a press.
preface the fact that I am not sponsored. Tim is not sponsored. BOWTECH doesn't give us any money at all because I get a lot of, oh, he's just a BOWTECH guy. I was like, dude, I don't get a penny. I don't get anything extra. My what's the word? My bow giveaways, right? I got more free stuff from 3 other manufacturers above BOWTECH. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is not we're just trying to sling you BOWTECH. Okay.
No.
This is working on your own bow a lot, fucking with your own bow a lot. It is easy.
As I've
They
seen,
make it easy.
kind of the behind the scenes of people just get snarfed up by sponsorships, dude. Like, and for a bow company, I mean, how easy is it to sponsor someone who's been paying for their stuff for 15 years and now they built a little following? It's like, oh, here, have a bow or whatever.
Well,
and then they're pimping gear, and it's like these people just it's really snarfed up by sponsorships. And Josh and I are sponsor free, which is kind of cool, that we can just talk freely.
Well, I have a business that sells everything, so it's
Yeah.
to my benefit to not be sponsored, even though they're slinging them out. Like anybody who works for me, damn near can get like on somebody's staff.
Yes.
That's
As
they don't
they
even
should.
and they don't have. Well, they should because
They
they're
should.
influential because they're standing
Yeah.
behind the counter. That's just part of
sure.
the deal.
Yeah.
But the reality of the value of it, and bow manufacturers or even the whole industry in general, they know that's actually about the most valuable place to put it. Like if you have a big YouTube or a big Instagram, you're the most influential people in the sport. Hoyt did a big market analysis last year on that and determined, because they were trying to figure out where they should put their endorsement dollars because
Yep.
they don't have as many of them as some other manufacturers do. One in particular has a giant budget that no one can touch. But the reality of it is they learned that that's the best place to put their money is people that you're watching on YouTube or people that you're paying attention to on Instagram. You react more to them than anybody else. And it's the ironic thing of it. My name came up on it, and this was a year ago, which kind of surprised me. Relatively high, actually. They told me where I was because they had all the people ranked on who was the most influential.
They had some little algorithm. Kind of thing,
Yeah. And I'm not allowed to discuss it other than I can tell you I'm on it, and I was the highest person on it that isn't sponsored.
Yeah.
And that was a year ago.
Which is cool.
When my YouTube was, what, 15,000 or
15,
10,000,
probably.
right? Yeah, so if it just goes to show you that people in that position are bought and paid for.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that they're lying to you,
No,
okay?
not at all.
It just means that if something's really not great about the product, they probably aren't going to tell you because they're going to hear about it, right? That same manufacturer that's giving them money or giving them a check for using their product, which is the advertising or what have you, the sponsored guy, he can't speak ill about the product, at least not very much. Like if something's wrong with it or whatnot, he probably can't really talk about it.
And most of it would be internal or not external, right? Like,
yeah, he can talk
hey,
to them about
hey,
what
my
he's
person
struggling
on
with.
the inside, this is wrong.
Yeah.
They can't.
Oh, for
they're
sure.
not going to come out and say something.
Yeah, they're not going to
big.
tell the public that.
They're not going to say that out loud.
Yeah, no, that's not going to the public. That's just internal, and they get feedback from that and try to correct things that they see, and that's part of their usage, which I give them feedback too. I'm just not paid to.
Yeah.
So, but anybody that you're watching at a certain level and a certain point that has things like this, they're all paid for. It's very rare that ones don't, and I'm not trying to brag or anything like that. But yeah, I don't take money, and Tim at some point may take money, and that's okay. Because if you're trying to make your living at that, that's how most of them are making their living. Like almost every person that you see on that list that's a professional archer, they are making their living off of those endorsement dollars. That's how they're paying their bills for the most part. And that coincides with, going on hunts that maybe the manufacturers pay for and that sort of thing. That's how that system works.
Well, and you see the time and effort now that goes into the back end of a lot of this stuff. Like if someone's consistently giving you constant flow of photos, constant flow of videos, like it is more or less a full-time job for either them or some type of creative person helping them.
Oh, absolutely. Like there's no way you don't get to that point
Yeah.
and it not be your full-time job. Now,
Yeah.
that full-time job may be a hunter, right? And they may be hunting for 4 months out of the year, 5 months out of the year, and then working heavily on content for 7 months out of the year, right? And that's their job. That person might be a tournament archer. That might be their thing. And they're going for 6 or 7 months, 8 months out of the year shooting tournaments. They're getting paid to do that, like, because they're good enough at it to make a living at it. But even at that point, most of them end up working for a manufacturer as like a sales rep or some kind of job involvement in it to be able to pay the bills and function.
Yeah.
But in general, those people, that's how they're making their living. So don't knock them for it, but realize that you're only going to hear so much.
I just understand the perspective it's coming from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of not being sponsored, as a person that myself that likes to make videos,
Yeah.
BOWTECH has some of the worst marketing, dude.
They do.
I'm just kind of appalled at a company that size. I mean, I don't know the back end of their size, but I know if there's say, four bow manufacturers in the U.S. that are big, and they're one of them. God, can they just have some budget or some, like, their marketing is so bad. Their product is apples to apples across the top. And I understand the engineering side of things to be like, we make a great product. It's going to speak for itself.
Yeah.
Well, here's the reality of big business is it doesn't speak for itself completely.
No.
Every big brand has a marketing team, people that pitch stories and consistent stories.
I think you'll see that change and improve.
Yeah.
I really do. I think it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. They asked me to be on their dealer advisory board. They pick a dealer out of each sector and ask for input. And have like I think it was during COVID actually, and we had like Zoom meetings or whatever. And my main statement to them was, "You guys have the greatest product that nobody knows about. Who is doing your marketing? This is terrible. Like, you have the most revolutionary tunable system built, and nobody knows about it. Like, nobody has a clue. Why aren't we talking about it? Why aren't you talking about it? What's going on here?"
Their product launch cycles are so bad too. And
They are, but it's so you got to understand that company was owned by an investment firm, okay? Because when crap hit the fan last time, a lot of these companies got bought up by investment firms. People took their money out of the stock market, rich people, and started buying up companies and tried to make them more profitable because they knew that, because they couldn't make money in the stock market very well. So they took it and spent it somewhere else, and BOWTECH was one of the ones that got gobbled up then. And they've been in and out of, I think, 2 different ones, and they're now owned by somebody else. And to my understanding of how it was explained to me, please forgive me if I'm wrong, because I did not have this conversation with the dude who owns it. He is, I want to say, like the wealthiest or one of the wealthiest oil guys in the United States. Actually, he owns it, that group, and he is a diehard bow hunter. So I'm kind of excited about that reality that the person that owns the company actually cares about the sport. That's really cool, because for a long time it was just an investment firm. It's like, how do we make a better quarter?
Yeah.
That's making poor decisions as far as long-term survival is concerned for an archery company. So I'm really excited to see that. For the longest time, like forever since their beginning, they ignored target archery, like altogether. Like they'd make a target bow and they'd spend zero. Like, if you in the target community, you're not considered relevant unless you're paying contingency. What contingency means is if I'm a semi-pro or a pro or an amateur and I go to a certain level of event and I place top 3 or top 5 or what have you, the manufacturer cuts you a check for using their bow, right? Which is why, excuse me, which is why Matthews is so popular in ASA, because Matthews pays in ASA. So if you're an aspiring archer and you're trying to make a go at it, make a living at it, you start paying attention to contingency and who pays what. And when you pay more in contingency, you get more people using your bow. And it's very smart on their part to do that, because they're going to directly sell bows because of it. Because a lot of the target archery bows out there nobody ever pays for them. They're given to them to use, right? So that's part of why that they're so expensive, in my opinion, because they're trying to recoup the cost of giving away so many of those bows. And then they also trying to recoup the cost of the contingency dollars that they spend to try to get people to use their brand over somebody else's because you're going to make more money when you're trying to make money. Because at the end of the day, the target archery world is typically based on making money. The lower level isn't, but the mid and upper level is, how do I do this for a living?
Yep.
Very few people get that far, but that's where it's at. And BOWTECH ignored it. Like people would be, and that community was offended because that community tends to, how do I say? I'm going to piss somebody off. They think they're better than everybody else. I think it's the best way to put it. And I've experienced so many of them and so much involvement in it. And I like that community. I really do. Because they are typically the people that care the most about being accurate. And accuracy is really important to me as an archer, like super important to me. But almost all of them have their hand out and think you owe them something. And I've experienced it through most of my life. I mean, just because you won one tournament that had 200 people at it once doesn't mean you like made the big time and you should be getting like 4 bows a year for free from the shop or something. It's like it doesn't work like that. But that tends to be where those people gravitate towards. So there's a cost in that is part of the reason why a target bow's $2,000 and a hunting bow's $1,200. Now they're not all that price and they're not all varied at that point, but that's a lot of why.
I mean, it's not $1,000 worth more of aluminum.
No, that bow don't cost $20 more to make.
Yeah,
it doesn't. But why is it so much more expensive? And yes, you can make the argument that they make less of them, and when you make less of something, the cost of it's higher. Believe me, I know I manufacture things that I sell. So if I make less of one item, like if somebody might have a great idea for a product, but if I can't make more than 100 of it a year, it's going to be really expensive.
Well, what I like that BOWTECH's done, and I think every manufacturer should take notes on this.
Before you gravitate away, I'm sorry, because I went on a tangent and I got to finish it. BOWTECH in the last 3 years or 4 years, somewhere around there, has hired Tim Gillingham, #1 male senior pro, Paige Pierce, the most dominant woman in archery in pro.
She's badass.
And Kyle Douglas, who over the past 3 or 4 years is arguably the best target archer male open pro.
Yep.
So they're not ignoring it anymore. And those decisions have been made going forward. So I won't be surprised because of seeing those decisions. They're throwing money, right? That they'll actually get a real marketing team. And my BOWTECH sales rep had been like, dude, if we had brand A's budget, we'd destroy them for marketing. Like, if we had good marketing, we'd destroy them because we make a better product. And he's not wrong. They make a very impressive product. Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, money's the easy answer. You can still have a great marketing team and be scrappy without money. But money's the easy button on that. What I was saying about BOWTECH, what I like that they're doing right now or that I'm seeing is they're using their target bow as like the test product for what's coming. And not to quote that's what's coming, but their target bow has more innovative shit on it than their hunting bow. And what I was going to say earlier about target archers is, to me, they're like the bodybuilders of the fitness industry.
Sure.
Like they're the people on ground zero
They
doing
do the reps.
tinkering,
Yep.
the testing,
Yep.
the repetition, and they're actually robotic enough to see changes with things like gear.
Yep. Well, and to look at the cam system that we all love now, right? That's started on their target bow.
Yep.
And they traditionally, when they make a feature or a major change, they'll put it into the target bow.
I like that.
That's more expensive, and then let it run for a year.
Yep.
And then they'll innovate those things into other bows.
Yep.
And figuring that it's going to get the piss used out of it, so if something's going to go wrong, you're good. And they came out with the binary, or the, what do they call that, deadlock cam system. They came out with that when the original Reckoning came out, and it was only out for a year. And I hunted with that bow, even though it was a target bow. I remember walking into their booth when they first had a prototype out. They've released it in like February, or January or February, like a terrible time to release a product. Like everybody else's bows come out in October and November, typically. And I walked up to their booth and I said, hey, do you have an Allen wrench? Because it was Allen wrench operated. It's like, no. I was like, all right, I'll be right back. And I ran over to some other booth, like a tool company or something. I was like, can I borrow an Allen wrench? Yeah. Walked over there, loosened it, because they had talked about it, but I'd never put my hands on it. Walked over there, loosened the one screw, turned the other screw, did the other end, handed it back, said, that's the coolest fucking thing I've ever seen. Good job. And walked away and gave the Allen wrench back to the other guy.
I remember how stoked you were, but I didn't understand the magnitude until this year.
The only thing that scared me about it was if it would hold up or not. And the only time I've ever had to replace that system for someone is when they left the lock screw locked and just forced the other one instead of loosening it. So there's a screw that holds the one in place. It's like there's a detent in there that pushes
Set
in.
screw.
Yeah, the set screw that you push in shoves a detent, I believe, up against the rod, so you can't move the rod that's actually the cam. I mean, it's so smart and so simple. Like any idiot can operate it, and any person, once you understand the rules and what they change, which is what I'm trying to get out to you over the next 6 months, as much of it as possible, you can make those changes yourself. Like, good example, go out to 50 yards and shoot your field point and your broadhead, and they're 3 inches apart. You can fix that with your cam lean. You don't have to move your rest, because your rest doesn't always fix it correctly. If you can't keep that track going straight down the back, so like let's say you're moving your rest, let's say that's moving the front end of the arrow. Well, moving your cam lean is moving the back end of the arrow. That's what the difference is. So you can, and when you move the back end of the arrow, you don't need as much movement. So you can keep the arrow leaving down the center of the bow, right? Where it's going to track truer at distance and make the changes that you want to make moving the back end. And there's only a couple of systems that effectively do that well. And to me, the BOWTECH system is by far the best functioning one.
So
Elite makes a similar system. They move it in their limb pocket, but I don't think it works as well personally. It's a great idea, even though it was PSE's idea originally, and then they just kind of changed it a bit and incorporated it in a different way. But that was a similar system to what PSE had made.
I was just thinking about this the other day. What do I need a press for with a BOWTECH? And my current setup, BOWTECH Gen 2, would it be just to change the strings?
Yeah. Well, if your cable stretches enough that you can't take it out with the timing screw, which the timing screw is really not intended to move like 2 twists of a cable. It's intended to get your timing perfect.
Yeah.
Because every bow, there's products on the market to try to solve that problem because it's such a problem. Like if you try to time, I'll use Matthews as an example because they're the largest one. So that's the example we're going to use. When you try to time your bow perfectly, you'll have good luck getting it perfectly timed. The only real solution, because you'll get it to where it's within like a half a twist or less, and one's hitting just slightly before the other, just ever so slightly. And does it really matter that much? Not necessarily. But if you're trying to set it perfect, you're trying to set it perfect. And the only solution to it is to like cut a piece of loop material and set it in your string, because another half a twist makes it go the other way, and now the other end's hitting first. And then Dan McCarthy has a product that you can put and stick in your cable just for that purpose, to try to time your bow. Mm-hmm. Like this is a known issue industry-wide. And there's only one product on the market that doesn't require fuckery to get your timing perfect. And it's BOWTECH Reckonings. So they're the only ones that have that I've seen. Now, someone comment down below on how much of a moron MFJJ is that he doesn't know that this brand does this or what have you. But it's an authentic, small, minute movement that is necessary to perfectly tune your bow. And at the end of the day, once you understand the rules of tuning, you're going to want to tune it perfect. Like if you get it and you're going to do it yourself, which is who I'm talking to here. That's who I'm trying to preach to. That's who I'm trying to explain things to, is the people that want to make their stuff function perfectly, which I would really hope it's most of you. None of this is all that hard, and you have to put in some kind of an effort to understand how it works, because I want everyone's gear to be precision. When people won't shoot past 40 yards, your bow ain't tuned for shit. Like these things are really accurate, and if you practice it and it fits you correctly, it's amazing how accurate you can be. And I just want to make sure that everyone's getting that opportunity.
Holy sweet mother of feedback for archery companies. This is good.
The only problem is like what BOWTECH did this last year, that's patented.
Yeah.
And leave it to the company that traditionally hasn't had an archery guy as their engineer. Like their ideas have traditionally came from people that weren't in the industry, that got hired into the industry. So they're looking at it with a different filter and a different lens. And don't get me wrong, I like, passionate bow hunters that want to make a better product. I think that's fucking great. I really do. But sometimes the bow looks like the bow in your head, right? And I want someone that doesn't know what a bow is to look at it from an engineer's mind. And that's where great innovation typically comes from, in my opinion. Someone that doesn't look at it the way you look at it. Because I know how I look at it, because I've looked at bows for 25, 30 years. And I'll look at it with a particular lens. I just will. because I'm used to what it looks like.
Yeah.
You got some good stuff over there,
I got
smartphone
some amazing
man?
stuff.
All
yeah.
right. Already?
I'm not just ignoring Josh and looking at my phone. I'm
No,
trying to,
right before he
I'm
started.
stirring up a couple couple questions here. Now the lead off question. I got funny people that follow me now. So the lead off question is, does a duck okay, listen to this, Josh. Does a duck with a boner drag weeds?
Does a duck with a boner drag weeds?
That's from our friend at Dan Watts Music.
I would say yes. Although I cannot say I'm an expert. I did have ducks as pets when I was a kid, but I never paid attention to if their boners dragged weeds or not.
Yeah.
But I would say yes.
I think that's pretty good.
a good one.
Here's another one, and then I'll let you pick a question, but this is probably more for you. How far can you twist the strings up to gain poundage? Also, is that a terrible idea? That's Aaron Olinger.
To answer that question accurately, Aaron, I would need to know what kind of bow you had.
Yeah.
Because every cam system's a little different, and a lot of the binary stuff or the dual track, the ones that share a track. So if your cable enters and exits the same track on your cam system, several of them do, you can't move those very much because the cam will lock up. So a good example of that is if you take your draw stops out of your bow and pull your bow back and it gets stuck, like you pull it back and it just stops and won't go forward.
That's not good.
Well, it's not good, but the other problem is you can't manipulate your string cable position very much, because if you do that, you'll over rotate to where it gets stuck like that, and it's not terribly unsafe. It's a terrifying feeling, mind you. Like we were doing a bear review, and the boys down at the shop accidentally set the draw stop slightly wrong because I'd hand it to them, say, hey, set this at this length, this weight. I'm doing something else. Let me know when you got it, and I'll run it up and test it. Right. And I want to say they just had the draw stop upside down. And it was only like a quarter inch or a half inch of difference for where it cycled, and it got stuck at full draw. I'd like hold it back, and we set it in the press, and Forrest was with me. Thank God I wasn't trying to do it by myself. I've had that happen before. The BOWTECH General Guardian, etc. If you over rotate it, it'll get stuck. And just like be by myself and no way to do anything about it. So I just turn my head and chuck the bow. Because at a certain point, a lot of times, depending on how much it's over rotated, the string will catch, but it's like at zero where the string goes limp completely and then takes off.
Exactly.
And you've got an arrow in the bow and you release your shoulder trying to hold on to it. There's been a couple times where I just walked over to somewhere safe where nobody was and just chucked it.
Yeah, we can't
Turn my head and chuck it.
We can't give away the full kit and caboodle here, but we're going to do something like that to push a bow.
Yeah, there's bows that you can rotate in advance and get poundage up. So I've certain ones I've gone 15 pounds before, but I would say within 5 pounds on almost anything is probably safe, and it won't take that much. Like depending more modern stuff, mind you, I'm saying in like the last 5 years, 5 twists might give you 5 pounds on a cable, but only adjust your cables. I wouldn't suggest adjusting your string, and only twist up, don't untwist. But either way, if you really are going to do that, message me and tell me what bow you're doing it on, because there are ones that you can't do the fuckery hardly at all.
You've been answering your DMs?
I've been trying. The last couple of days I haven't because I've been so damn busy, but I try to. So I usually go in the hot tub when I first wake up in the morning. I'll pour a cup of coffee. I'll come downstairs. I'll pour a cup of coffee, and I'll jump in the hot tub for 30 minutes. And I'll turn on a podcast or something like that, and I'll try to go through my messages.
Yeah.
And I'll try to do the same thing at night. Some nights I'm just so mentally exhausted that I can't do it. Like I'll still get in the hot tub, but I can't think.
Okay, here's one. I'll give my opinion. You give me yours. Bowhunter Beasley wants to know titanium versus steel inserts for durability. Okay, here's my answer first. Is titanium's sweet. It's a beautiful material, and it's manufactured really cleanly with your inserts. I like it, but when you shoot it into hard shit, it's not the titanium that's bending; it's the inside of the arrow. So I think it's kind of a wash if you're going one or the other. If you're talking solely for durability,
Disagree.
okay.
I think titanium, especially weight per weight. If we're talking about a 50 grain steel insert and a 50 grain titanium insert, there's no comparison at all. Titanium's way harder to bend. and it's lighter than steel. So because of that, you can add some more mass in certain places. So you can create a more durable insert or a more durable component, regardless of what we're talking about. However, if you're trying to be heavy, you're going to have to use steel because titanium is, I think it's lighter than aluminum.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard and it's hard to bend. I've not seen a steel product that's equivalent shape dimension that doesn't bend easier. It's period. So titanium over steel, guaranteed if we're talking durability, period, weight to weight.
Go ahead and scroll through those. We can pick one more. Yeah, we got a lot of really good questions, and I'll talk on that for a second. So I think I agree with what you said. What I'm saying is that if you're apples to apples and you shoot it into some hard shit, you're going to get bend in the arrow. So the titanium is more durable than the steel, but the weak spot is still the arrow.
The weak spot's the arrow for sure, but a carbon arrow is not going to bend. It'll flex.
No, it'll crack or flex.
It'll crack.
Yeah.
And that's where collars can be a little more beneficial because it's harder to crack because it can't go forward past the insert.
If you're trying to like have the strongest front of the arrow, you want a collar on there, right? You want to be collared up.
Yeah. If you're trying to have the most durable thing possible, but to me, the titanium itself is already pretty damn durable. And the only time I've really had my arrow go over my insert is when I've hit a concrete wall or a steel plate or something like that. I've never had my arrow go over my insert when I hit bone because bone is not as hard. Mm-hmm. So that's part of the reason why I kind of think the collar is bullshit.
Yeah.
And people like them and people want them, so I make them because if you want something bad enough, I'll make it. I don't care. But I've never had my arrow go over my insert, or in other words, the insert sliding into your arrow when you hit something hard on an animal.
I was going to say the exact same thing. These conversations are really fun to have. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you create the baddest arrow possible? How do you create the strongest front of the arrow possible? But when it comes to shooting into and through an animal, it's unnecessary.
I agree.
It's fun.
You can make indestructible things, but it's not going to cause you a failure on an animal.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to.
All right, give us a little bonus question out of the hopper there.
Okay, this is probably fine.
For the who is it?
This is G Fuentes 3687.
Shout out to G Fuentes.
If I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
It says, can MFJJ elaborate on last chance draw board and timing being not true? Okay, and I get asked this a lot since I've pointed that out.
Okay.
So a good example of this. The way the last chance draw board is set up, it would be like trying to hold your bow where your arrow rest goes. So if you set your timing on your bow with your fingers, like put your hand on the grip, draw the bow back, roll it forward, and look at where the cables come to hit on the rest or the stopping points. And I'll try to make more elaborate videos that show this a little tighter and closer as we go, because I haven't done how to time this bow, haven't how to time that bow, but we're getting there. So be patient with me. But for now, if you try to grab your bow, if you get it all set perfect, right? Everything feels good. And not have a rest on your bow. And then move your hand up to where the arrow rest is and hold your bow there and try to draw it back. It's out of time.
Oh, because you're changing your pivot point.
Because you're changing the pressure point of where it pulls from, right? So, and you can test that and try that yourself. You can absolutely feel it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Well, if you look at the last chance setup, it's in a straight line, right? So where you're attaching to the loop and where the grip sits is like this. Mm-hmm. So when you start to draw the last chance draw board back, the bottom of the cam goes whoop and sticks out really hard. Well, why doesn't it do that when you pull on it?
Because it's a different...
it's a different angle.
Is fulcrum the right word? It's a different...
I think fulcrum would be the right word.
Pivot point or whatever.
So what it boils down to is your draw board needs to be set up to function correctly to have the arrow running in a straight line in relation to where the grip is out of the bow to where it doesn't pivot. And that distance on most bows is 2 inches. So where your arrow is to where your hand is roughly 2 inches below it, or the shallow point of the grip. So on any draw board, if you're going to build one yourself, you need to have a 2-inch drop difference from a vertical line from where that's grabbing from and where your bow sits. And when you do it correctly, when you start to pull it back, your bow won't like shift really weird. And if you look at the draw board that I made in the shop that I've been using for like 4 or 5 years, that's incorporated around the idea of a bow press, it's staggered by 2 inches. And when you start to draw it, it doesn't shift. It stays square. And I actually learned that from the original draw board that I had way back when that Apple made like 20 years ago. That was this stupid elaborate thing right at the tail end of double cam that actually had what do you call them? Dial indicators that would sit on the cams. Like you could mic the thousandths position on your cams, which was really cool. But I also noticed that if you like didn't put pressure on the pockets to keep the cam straight and then you let go of it, it would shift really bad. And that's where I figured out that, hold on a second, this being in the middle doesn't work right. You have to have it staggered or offset a little bit. You have to.
Yep.
No way around it. So that's the difference. And there's like, I'm sure forums and things on the internet that show how to make a draw board correctly. And it's a 2-inch difference. Although I figured that out myself, I didn't see that originally. And like I said, I made that quite a long time ago. But that's how you set your timing correctly. It has to be staggered by 2 inches, and Last Chances doesn't do that. Now, maybe they'll make a handle that's 2 inches below or something like that instead of square.
Yep.
Maybe. But for now, it doesn't work right. Like when I first started using one, it was a 1/2 inch out. When I pulled it back with my fingers, I could feel it out of time. And try it. Like if you have a Last Chance draw board, set your timing and then hold it back with your hand and try to slowly let it forward in your hands. And you'll watch one of them coming off first. And it's usually about a 1/2 twist.
I totally understand what you said there in the beginning. Like, yeah, that makes, yeah.
You're not grabbing it from where the arrow rest comes from, so it won't work.
Would it be the same as if you kept your hand on the same position on the grip, but you moved your fingers up and down the string?
Yeah, you can do the same thing, but
Yeah.
it's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
Like physically, it's hard to hang on to it. It wants to shift back down.
Yeah.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
So you'll notice it that way too. I mean, you can move put 2 fingers above and 1 finger below, and you can feel it. And it's not that much. Like that's not a big change. You have to retune, like when you're string walking. This is another thing that kind of pointed it out to me. On a recurve, if you don't put your finger against the string, if you go back to our podcast with Nolan when he talked about what that is, so like your arrow's like where my thumb is, and you actually move your hand down to where there's a gap between where the arrow is and where your fingers attach. You have to reapply the pressure in the limbs differently to get that arrow to fly straight at all. Because you have now changed where you're grabbing from. Your hands are in a different position, and the pressure is different. When you do a recurve, your bottom limbs, I think your bottom limb has to be weaker than the top limb to get it to pull straight. It's called tillering.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So, or it's the other way around.
Yeah.
I think it's the bottom has to be weaker. I'm pretty sure. And that's because of the way your fingers grab it, and they will retiller a bow based off of whether you're shooting split finger or 3-finger under or string walking, because it changes where the pressure is in the limbs to get them to pull back equally at draw, because you want them to have the same amount of load when you get it all the way back.
I like it.
Well, it's just technical crap.
See our fire?
Oh, is that what you were doing? You turned our fire off.
Our fire's out.
Comment down below on how cool or dumb our iPad fire was.
Our fire is out, and
Has that been over an hour?
yeah, that's an
Frick,
hour.
I feel like we've been talking for 15 minutes.
That was a good one. I like what we covered today. We got to talk about, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, we'll have to do that comment thing more often for questions from people.
Yeah, every now and then
that was
we
a
will
great
for
idea.
sure. And yeah, be following Josh or myself on Instagram to get a little BTS. Josh is posting stories now.
I'm trying.
What?
Yeah, I just need somebody
Crazy
to do
stuff.
it for me so I don't have to worry about
Crazy
it.
stuff.
Yep.
We're out like a trout. Gonna go shoot my bow.